First up, I'm not an expert. This comes from my doing research and my best efforts to understand what I'm reading. If I've misrepresented any of the sources in my description, that is on me. We, as a society, generally give adults a great deal of freedom and autonomy over their bodies. The law protects people's rights over their own bodies and only permits them to be violated in limited circumstances. However, that autonomy isn't granted to children. Children's lack of experience and their limited mental development can result in them making bad decisions. We often have to violate a child's personal autonomy for their own safety. But with adults having so much power over a child, there is a danger. It is quite possible for a parent's decisions in the past to result in that child growing up to be a less free adult. There is a moral principle called the right to an open future, which goes along these lines. Since it's impossible for us to know what the future adult will want, a child's caregivers should ensure that the future adult has as many options as possible, so the adult can make those decisions for themselves. I know this is a bit complex, but an example would make it more clear. This is Riley. Their parents have a choice. Their parents could either have Riley mine rock salt for 16 hours a day, or send them to a school to learn to read. If we compare the two futures, in the one where Riley learned to read, Riley has so much more options than rock salt Riley. Even if Riley, as an adult, decides never to read another word, this is a decision that they are able to make. The right to an open future tells us we should send Riley to school because the future adult has more freedom. Let's consider another example. Vaccination. It can be a painful and invasive medical procedure. Young children rarely want to be vaccinated. However, if we do not vaccinate a child, they could die of an otherwise preventable illness. Dead people have no ability to make any decisions. They have no freedom at all. If we consider the futures where kids are vaccinated versus the futures where they are not, as a group, the vaccinated kids have greater freedom. From a right to an open freedom perspective, compulsory vaccination is justified. Now, let's talk about trans people. I hope this short explanation will suffice. Broadly speaking, a trans person is a person who's better off being a gender other than the one they were assigned to at birth. Some trans people will medically transition using hormones and/or surgery to make their bodies more in line with the gender that they identify as. In Australia and many other places, the standard for adults who are trans or think they might be trans is to use treatments that delay the onset of puberty until the adolescent is old enough to make a decision about medical transition. Preventing puberty makes medical transition less risky, and many trans youth find puberty traumatic. However, there are many places such as Texas that are trying to ban the recommended treatment, claiming that it is abusive. Now that we've learned about the right to an open future, we can use this framework to judge if the standard of care is abusive. The adult who was given standard care, they will have the opportunity to resume natal puberty or medically transition with relative ease. Standard care gives a future that is more open than the one where no care was given. The no care option violates the right to an open future. Denying access to standard medical care is in fact abusive. Parents and governments, not knowing what an adult will want to be when they are a child, need to ensure that that adult's options are kept open. Giving access to puberty delaying medical care preserves the adults they will become's options and is unambiguously the right thing to do.